Good evening. My name is Darius Reagans. I am the Director of University Outreach at California State University, Bakersfield. Welcome to this overview of the Cal State University system. We're going to talk about the benefits of going to a CSU, understand the application process, mistakes that students might make while we're applying, as well as talk about some of the differences between our enrollment requirements versus admission requirements. Here you have a picture of California and where all the California State Universities are located within the state. Again, we have 23 different campuses that anyone can apply to be admitted to. So we have campuses as far north as Cal State Humboldt, in the middle of California like Fresno, San Luis Obispo, and yours truly, Cal State Bakersfield, as well as universities in the south like Cal State San Bernardino, San Marcos, and San Diego State University. We have more than 478,000 students that attend the university and more than 100,000 graduate each year. So what are some common questions about the CSU? Is there a hierarchy amongst all the systems, the CSU, the UCs, or the community college? Is one perceived better than the other? No, not really, because each system offers its own uniqueness. It is important for you to find out what is the best fit for you as a student, thinking about location, thinking about the major that you want. There's all kinds of different types of characteristics of a university that's really going to allow you to determine what is the best fit for you. Which campus has the best engineering program? Again, each campus has its own uniqueness. Best is what you decide. I had mentioned before, what's the best location for you? What school might give you the best opportunity to get a job for you? What campus has the best faculty for you? You need to not only look at the major, but look at the cost factor, how a campus looks, how it feels. We encourage all of you to try to take tours of some campuses, because if you aren't comfortable in your surroundings, you may not be comfortable in class. So it's more than just the name. It's about a fit overall where you can be successful. Can I attend the CSU and then transfer to the UC system or another CSU later? Technically, the answer to that question is yes. However, when it comes to us admitting students, there are certain degrees of priority. If you are transferring from one four-year school to another four-year school, your admission is not going to be guaranteed, even if you meet the minimum requirements, simply because you're at a lower priority in terms of who we admit. We tend to look at transfer students from community colleges as first priority, then first-time freshmen from high schools for second priority, and then after that, we might look at students from other four-year institutions. A lot of it is a numbers game. The universities cannot just admit anyone that happens to apply. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about impaction-related issues. So if in fact you want to go straight to a university and you weren't able to go in as a first-time freshman, one of your options is to go to a community college first and then try to transfer to the institution that is your first choice. Is it better to declare a major when applying or select undeclared? Kind of depends on you as a student. We recognize that you may not have made your decision yet coming into our campuses right out of high school at 17, 18, maybe 19 years old. You still may be trying to identify what it is that you want to do. And you may not have been exposed to a lot of different majors and different types of careers. So we understand that it's okay for you to come in undeclared. But if in fact you do that, we have plenty of counselors that will help you go through majors and try to figure out exactly it is what you may want to do. Understanding the CSU admission process. So if you are a graduating senior out of high school, or even if you are a transfer student, if you are planning to be admitted into a Cal State for fall of 21, you're going to be applying this year in October. The application period goes from October to November. We tend to send admissions decisions as early as October. If you're applying to one of our impacted schools, you may not find out too quickly, but we'll get into that a little bit with regards to impacted schools. In the spring term, during March and April, many of our campuses have preview days. And again, we encourage that you try to go to some of those preview days so you can kind of get a feel of the campus. Then once you graduate from high school, we're going to want you to send us official transcripts so we can take a look at your grades and verify that you have met the requirements to be admitted. And then that following August, school will start. All right, so let's get into what does it take for you to actually be admitted. There actually has been some changes recently that hopefully will be encouraging to you. So first and foremost, if you have not heard about the A through G college course requirements, those courses still need to be completed. I will show you a list of those courses momentarily. But also, we're looking for students to complete a 2.5 GPA. So as long as you complete those A through G requirements and you get a 2.5 in those A through G requirements, you have met the minimum requirements to be admitted into a Cal State. One of the biggest changes that are taking place for Fall 21 is no longer are we requiring students to take the SAT or the ACT for the purposes of admission. Okay, those scores will not be considered. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't take the SAT or the ACT. Here's why. Private schools, schools that are outside the state of California, they could very well ask you to submit SAT scores or ACT scores. So again, I am not recommending that you not take those tests. All I'm stating to you is that as it pertains to the minimum CSU admission requirements, CSU campuses will no longer take a look or require that SAT or ACT scores be submitted for admission. The other thing about the CSU is we could use SAT or ACT requirements in order to place you, particularly for math and English. So it might still be to your advantage to take those tests. Just know that whatever score you get has no bearing on whether or not you'll be admitted into a California State University system campus. Also, we do not require you to submit resumes, no pictures or headshots, no letters of recommendation, no personal statements. Other institutions may require that, but not the California State University system. All right, I had mentioned the A through G college course requirements. Here are those classes. It's a 15-unit pattern, and you see all the areas there, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's the reason why we call it A through G. You want to make sure that you are on track to complete all those courses by the time you graduate. You cannot be trying to complete these courses in the summer after you graduate, okay? Try to have them all done by the time you graduate in May or June of your senior year. That is what we are looking for. All right, so let's talk about impaction. Impaction is basically when the university is receiving so many applications that they could not possibly offer a spot to every single person. When that situation happens, those campuses can declare that they are impacted. Now, a campus can be impacted or a major can be impacted. In either case, what ends up happening is that campus or that major will require additional requirements or will increase the minimum requirement in order to be admitted or selected into that campus or program. All right, so let's take a look at campuses that are not impacted. So we have Cal State Bakersfield, Cal State Channel Islands, Cal State Dominguez Hills, Cal Maritime, San Francisco State, Stanislaus, and now Fresno. At least as of for this past fall, 2020, Fresno was not impacted. So let's assume that they stay with that declaration and they're not impacted for fall 21. I'm not too sure with regards to Fresno, but it's very, very possible. But all those other campuses, again, are not impacted. So what does that mean? That means that as long as you meet the minimum requirements to be admitted and you apply to one of those campuses, you should get a letter of admission. All right. So again, that's completing the A through G courses and getting at least a 2.5 overall GPA in those A through G courses. All right. So these campuses here, impacted for freshman admissions. All right. These campuses are local admission based, okay? So what that means is that if you live in their general area, if you live in an area that they say you go to a school that we service, then if you meet the minimum requirements to be admitted and you apply to that school, then you have a good chance of getting in. But if you don't live in their area, you have to deal with the increased admission requirements because of their impaction. Okay, so let's say you are here, you're living in Cal State you're living in Bakersfield, California. You apply to Cal State Bakersfield, please do. But then let's also say that you're interested in going to Cal State LA or Cal State San Marcos. What's going to happen is they're going to tell you, you don't live in our general area. Of course, you know, a long way away from those institutions. But if you have the increased requirements, now there's still a potential possibility for you to be admitted. I don't know what those increased requirements will be or what that number will be. So for example, now this is just an example. Let's say San Marcos says, instead of having a 2.5 in your A through G, you have to have a 2.8, all right? Then if you have that, they might admit you. I can't tell you what it is because each Cal State is going to determine what that new increase is with regards to requirements. So if you're going to apply to an impacted campus, you need to call them, tell them that you're coming from the Bakersfield area, and ask them what are those increased admission requirements going to be when they look at your application. All right, these campuses here. This is what we call campus and major impaction. What that means is, even if you live in their local area, everyone that is admitted has to meet the increased minimum requirements because of the level of impaction that they are in, okay? So that means unless there's some type of special program, even students that live in their area don't get in just because they meet minimum requirements. So these are the super impacted campuses that we have. So please feel free to still apply. I'm not telling you that you won't get in. You still want to apply. But again, their minimum requirement to be admitted is going to be higher than other campuses. All right. So don't be afraid to apply. You know, you might be a great student, have a 3.5, 4.0 GPA. Hey, you know, you want to apply to any campus that you feel that you are eligible to be admitted into. All right. All right, let's talk about some top mistakes students might make on their application with regards to the admission process to a Cal State. Waiting until the last moment to apply. All right, so our application period this year begins October 1st, but it also ends December 4th. For some of you that have been paying attention, you may have recognized that in past years, the deadline was November 30th. This is true. We have extended that for a week. All right, so now your deadline is November 4th. This is what you don't want to do. Don't wait till December 4th to submit your application online. All right, you guys are able to submit your application as early as October 1st. So if you want to get the best opportunity to get admitted into the campuses and find out early, submit your application in October. All right, don't wait till December 4th. Just sit down one day and knock it out. It's going to take you about 3 to 4 hours to knock it out in one sitting. If you want to do that, that's fine. The other thing that's kind of cool though, if you don't want to, you know, take 3 to 4 hours to do that, any information that you put on the application will be saved. So you can do it in 2-parters. You can take 2 days to actually fill out the application and submit it. But again, my whole point in bringing this up is to say, please submit early. Here's kind of a checklist that lets you know what you need to have with you when you are completing the application. If you have all of this information, then you should be able to submit the application without a problem based upon the questions that the application is going to ask you to answer. Another problem, using an invalid email address or not checking your email. Here's the thing, as you all know, we're in this virtual electronic world. When you submit your application, the email that you put on that application, that is how we're going to communicate with you. So 2 things on that. You got to make sure you put the right email address. Don't make a mistake when typing it in. And then you need to make sure that you're checking it on a regular basis because we're going to send you updates. We may require additional information from you. So this is important for you to make sure that you're keeping up to date with it so that you won't miss important information. All right, number 3, not applying to your local campus or a non-impacted campus. You need to have a backup plan. again, we showed you what campuses were impacted and which ones were not. One of the things that you don't want to do is only apply to campuses that are impacted. All right, so let's say you really want to go to school in the South. And so you apply to Long Beach, Pomona, San Diego State, Fullerton, and San Bernardino. All right, you just apply to all Cal States that are impacted. And so now you have to make sure that you meet that higher minimum requirement in order to be admitted. Well, if you're coming from Bakersfield, go ahead and apply to Bakersfield as well. Because if in fact you get denied from all the other campuses because they're impacted, at least you know that you are in at Bakersfield because you have the minimum requirements. You do not want to close yourself out of access to higher education. And so it will be better for you to just come right down the street and come to California State University, Bakersfield with all the amenities and all the great things that we have for you right here on campus than to not be at a university even though you are totally eligible to be here at Cal State Bakersfield. All right, other Cal State applied tips. All right, remember that the freshman application for you to submit an application does not open until October 1st. So you cannot start an application until that time. Okay, so wait till October 1st and then you are good to go. All right. Application fee waivers. We do offer a fee waiver for the application. If you satisfy the requirements for the fee waiver, you can apply to 4 Cal States. But once you apply to the 5th Cal State, they will start to charge you the application fee. Now, in the past, the application fee was $55. There has been an increase. Now, each application costs $70. Okay. Also, I had showed you that list of documents that you needed in order to apply. Make sure you have that information with you. Very important. What if I can't get into a CSU as a freshman? Actually, pretty good question. You can always go to a community college and complete an associate's degree and transfer. All right. Going to a community college is a completely legitimate way to complete your education in terms of completing a bachelor's degree. You should not look at the community college as a place where you won't get anything done. You will. The one thing you have to make sure you do is when you go talk to a counselor at a community college, make sure they know from you that it is your intent to transfer and that you want an associate's degree in transfer. Not just any associate's degree. You want the AST or an AAT. That T stands for transfer. The reason why it's important to make sure you emphasize that is because when you get an associate's degree to transfer, it guarantees that you've met all the requirements necessary to transfer, okay? So that's very important. All right, so what is it? What is it a 2-year degree does? Well, that 2-year degree, it gives you all of your general education done, and it also gives you some introductory freshman, sophomore, major level coursework completed. So it essentially represents the 2 years or the 4 years of a degree that you need to complete. So when you go to a community college and you complete an associate's degree, basically you're halfway done to your bachelor's degree. Here are the different types of associate's degrees that you can get at a community college. Now, one of the things that's important for you to do is that your overall major needs to match the associate's degree, right? So if you go to Bakersfield College to get an associate's degree in history, when you transfer, you should be wanting to complete the remaining requirements for a bachelor's degree in history, okay? You do not want to mix and match. And unless you have a specific reason. I'm not saying not to do that, because there may be a reason for you to do that. But in terms of being able to capitalize on all the California legislation with regards to associate's degrees in transfer, you want to make sure that the associate's degree matches the major that you want to complete. All right. So again, history for history, geology for geology, music for music, Spanish for Spanish, that type of thing. What are the benefits to the associate's degree? Okay, so let's talk about that. First of all, It doesn't guarantee admission to an impacted campus. However, you are guaranteed to be admitted to some CSU, meaning that there is a CSU that must admit you based upon the fact that you have finished an AAT. The other thing that's cool about it is once you complete that AAT and you are completing a bachelor's degree in the same area, whatever Cal State you get admitted into, they cannot tell you to do any more than 60 additional units in order to complete your baccalaureate degree. So that's kind of like doing 15 units every semester for 2 years, and then you're done. Enrollment requirements versus admission requirement. All right, so the enrollment process. So of course, we're gonna ask you to submit the application. We might ask you to submit a transcript. Students may begin to commit to campuses in May. Orientation is gonna be in June, and you're gonna be into moving on campus in August. Part of the reason why we wanna put this up there is that some of these things are will cost you money to participate in. For example, orientation. Orientation almost always costs. It could be as low as $100. It can be as much as $200, all right? When you commit to campus, you have to submit an intent to enroll. Sometimes that has a financial deposit associated with it. So just because you've been admitted into an institution does not mean that you're going to be allowed to start in August unless you follow through with additional steps that is required in order to enroll. All right. All right, so we're going to offer some opportunity for questions. Thank you so much for participating in this presentation. There are some contacts for you right there of different people around the Cal State system that you can contact and talk to about their schools or being about admitted in general. There again is my name, Darius Riggins, Director of University Outreach, Cal State Bakersfield. Thank you so much for attending. I'll be looking forward to your questions.